and still got blindsided by a jar of candy at a red light. On his way home, Grant Holloway, the polished CEO everyone feared, glanced out his tinted window and froze. There, under a flickering street lamp, stood Rosa Delgado, the quiet cleaning lady from his own building, still in her work uniform, holding up a small jar of homemade coconut sweets, like it was the last lifeline she had. Cars rolled past. Some people smiled. Most ignored her. But Grant couldn't, not after seeing the exhaustion in her shoulders and the pride in the way she kept standing anyway. The next morning he couldn't focus. He kept hearing the same question in his head. Why would someone who works for me need to sell candy after midnight? He called her into a conference room, not to scold her, but to listen. Rosa didn't beg. She didn't cry. She just said, "My son Eli needs surgery. The basics are covered. The rest isn't." Her voice was calm, but her hands shook as she tightened her grip on her cleaning cart like it was armor. Grant sat back stunned. His company ran on perfect spreadsheets and competitive wages, yet right in front of him was proof that legal wasn't the same as fair. So he made a decision that would anger partners and rattle the entire building. Rosa could sell her sweets inside the office openly, and he ordered a review of wages for the staff everyone overlooked. Because once you see someone fighting for their child under a street lamp, you don't get to unsee it. Grant didn't leave that conference room feeling like a hero. He left feeling exposed, like someone had ripped the velvet curtain off his success and shown him the unpaid cost behind it. Rosa sat across from him, spine straight, eyes tired but steady. When he asked softly, "How bad is it?" she hesitated just long enough for him to see the fear she'd been swallowing for months. "My boy," she said, swallowing hard. "Eli's 12. The doctor says his spine is curving fast. He's in pain when he sleeps. Sometimes he can't even tie his shoes without wincing." She looked down at her hands, calloused from bleach and mop handles. "They can do the surgery, but the insurance only covers the basics. The rest is thousands." Grant's jaw tightened. He'd signed off on budgets that burned through thousands in a single dinner meeting. Yet this woman who scrubbed the fingerprints off his glass doors every morning was standing under streetlights, selling coconut candy like her life depended on it. He tried to offer help the way men like him always do, clean, quick, transactional. "Tell me the number," he said. "I can—" Rosa lifted her chin, and her voice sharpened without rising. "No." A pause. "I'm not asking for pity, Mr. Holloway. I'm asking for a chance." That line hit him harder than any insult ever could. Because Rosa wasn't broken. She was fighting. Every jar of sweets was a promise to her son. "Hold on. I'm coming." Grant nodded slowly, the room suddenly too quiet. He didn't argue. He didn't push. He just saw her, really saw her for the first time. And as Rosa stood to leave, she added one more sentence, almost like a warning. "If I stop selling, my son stops getting better." Grant watched her walk out with that cleaning cart, and something inside him shifted. Not guilt. Not charity. Resolve. Grant Holloway didn't sleep that night, not really. He lay in a king-size bed that suddenly felt like a display model, perfect, expensive, and useless. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Rosa under that street lamp holding up that jar like it weighed 50 pounds. By 6:30 a.m., he was already in his office. "Marianne," he said to his executive assistant, voice low and tight. "I need a full personnel profile on Rosa Delgado. Start date, pay history, performance notes. Everything." Marianne blinked. "Rosa, the night cleaner." "Yes." Grant snapped, then softened when he saw her face. "Please." An hour later, a thin folder landed on his desk. Thin. Like Rosa's life had been reduced to a few neat lines of ink. Grant read it once, then again slower. No write-ups, no complaints, attendance flawless, comments from supervisors reliable, quiet, never asks for anything. And there it was, the number that made his stomach turn. Minimum wage. Barely a step above it even after years. He stared at the page like it was a punchline no one else was hearing. He had sat in meetings where people argued over a 2% raise like it would sink the entire company. He had signed contracts with vendors who charged more per month than Rosa made in a year. And all the while, the woman who kept his building shining was rationing groceries and selling candy after dark. Grant pushed back from his desk and stood at the window, watching the morning traffic crawl by. "Legal," he muttered to himself. "We did everything legal." Then he remembered Rosa's voice, calm, proud, unbending. "I'm asking for a chance." Grant picked up the phone again. "Get me HR," he said, the words coming out colder than he intended. "And schedule time with operations. Today, no excuses." He paused, fingers tightening around the receiver. "Because if this is what legal looks like," he whispered more to himself than anyone, "then we've been wrong for a long time." The conference room felt colder than it should have. Rosa Delgado stood near the door like she was ready to bolt, one hand still gripping the handle of her cleaning cart. Grant Holloway stayed seated at the long glass table, the kind of table where people signed deals and pretended they didn't have hearts. He cleared his throat. "Rosa, last night, I saw you." Rosa's eyes narrowed just a fraction. "Yes, sir. I'm not here to get you in trouble," Grant said quickly. He stopped himself. "Because I just..." "What?" Felt guilty, got curious. None of it sounded right. "Why are you selling candy after work?" Rosa exhaled through her nose. "Not angry, just tired. Because my paycheck ends before the month does." Grant flinched. "Is it for your son?" Rosa's shoulders tightened. She didn't answer at first. Then she nodded once controlled, like she refused to let emotion spill in front of a man in a suit. "Eli needs surgery. We're doing what we can." Grant leaned forward. "How much are you short?" "That did it." Rosa's gaze snapped up, sharp as a blade. "No." One clean syllable. Grant blinked. "No, no?" She repeated steady. "I'm not asking you to rescue me, Mr. Holloway. I'm not a charity case." She tapped the cart lightly, the metal clinking in the silence. "I'm working. I'm selling. I'm handling my business." Grant opened his mouth, then closed it. For the first time in a long time, he didn't know what to say. Rosa's voice softened, not weak, just human. "If I take money from you, it comes with a story people tell. The CEO saved her." She shook her head. "My son doesn't need a headline. He needs his mom to keep her dignity." Grant sat back, swallowed hard, and nodded slowly. "Okay," he said. "I hear you." Rosa turned to leave, but before she reached the door, Grant added quietly, "Then let me help you. The only way that doesn't take that from you." Rosa paused just long enough for the room to hold its breath. Grant didn't promise Rosa a miracle. He promised her something harder. The next morning, he walked into HR like a storm with a tie. "Close the door," he told Dana Whitmore, his HR director. Her smile faded the second she saw his face. He dropped Rosa's file on the table. "Explain this to me." Dana glanced down. "She's classified under facilities third-party janitorial contract. Standard pay band. Everything is compliant." Grant leaned in. "Compliant with what paperwork?" His voice stayed calm, but it had teeth. "She's been here for years. Perfect attendance. No complaints. And she's still at the floor." Dana shifted. "Raising wages across contracted staff will increase operating costs. We'd need approvals. It could. It will." Grant cut in. "And we're doing it anyway." By noon, operations was in the room too. Spreadsheets lit up the screen. Percentages. Forecasts. Risk. The usual. Grant pointed at the column labeled custodial/maintenance. "These are the people who keep this building running while we sleep. If someone working full-time has to sell candy after midnight to keep their kid from getting worse, then our system is broken." Silence. The kind that makes grown executives stare at their hands. Dana tried again. "What exactly are you asking for?" Grant didn't blink. "A wage review. All building staff. Not next quarter, this week. And I want a new program in place, a medical hardship fund. Employees shouldn't have to choose between dignity and a doctor." He paused, then added, "No press release. No photo ops. Just help." Someone from operations swallowed. "That's a big shift, Grant." Grant's eyes hardened. "No. A big shift is what Rosa carries every night when she steps under that street lamp. This is the minimum." When the meeting finally broke, Grant stood alone for a moment, staring at the empty chairs. He could already hear the pushback, the arguments, the anger, but for the first time in years, he felt something stronger than fear of losing money. He felt fear of staying the same. Rosa came in that evening, expecting another warning, another lecture, another door closing. Instead, Grant Holloway met her in the lobby. No suit jacket, no entourage, just a man standing there like he'd been waiting for the truth. "I meant what I said," he told her. "I'm not buying your silence. I'm not paying for your story." He nodded toward the elevators. "I'm giving you a chance." Rosa's eyes flicked to the security desk, then back to him. "What does that mean?" Grant didn't smile. He didn't try to charm her. He just spoke plainly. "Starting tomorrow, you can sell your coconut sweets inside the building during breaks in the cafeteria area. I'll make sure no one bothers you. No sneaking around. No getting chased off like you're doing something wrong." Rosa blinked like she'd misheard him. Inside, Grant repeated. "You're already here. You're already working. You shouldn't have to stand under a street lamp hoping strangers stop." For a second, her tough shell cracked. Not into tears, into something quieter. Relief mixed with pride. The kind of emotion you feel when someone finally stops making you prove you deserve to breathe. "But," she said carefully, "people will talk." Grant nodded. "They can. I'll handle that part." Then he added softer. "You said you wanted a chance. This is one you earned." Rosa looked down at the small cooler bag in her hand, the same bag she'd been hauling to that red light every night. She gripped it tighter like it suddenly mattered again. "Mr. Holloway," she said, voice low, "I don't want favors." "This isn't a favor," Grant replied. "It's access. And you're going to outwork everybody's opinions." Rosa held his gaze. Then finally she gave one small nod. "Okay," she said. "Tomorrow. I'll bring more jars." The first day Rosa sold inside the building, it didn't look like a miracle. It looked like a folding table by the cafeteria, a handwritten sign, a small cooler, and Rosa still in her uniform lining up jars of coconut sweets with the same care she used on the lobby floors. At 9:07 a.m., the first employee walked up half smiling like it was a joke. "Is this yours?" he asked. Rosa kept her voice steady. "Yes, sir. Homemade. $2 a jar." He shrugged, pulled out his wallet and bought one. Then another person stopped. Then two more. By lunchtime, the table had a line. Grant watched from the second-floor balcony, hands in his pockets, trying to act like he wasn't holding his breath. He could feel the building shifting, tiny, almost invisible. People weren't just buying candy. They were seeing Rosa for the first time, learning her name, asking how's your son like it mattered. And that's when the rumble started. That afternoon, Grant was pulled into a call with two senior partners and the facilities vendor. Their voices were polite, but the edges were sharp. "Grant, one partner said, we're hearing you're letting a contracted cleaner run a side business on company property." Grant didn't flinch. "I am. This sets a precedent," the vendor warned. "It's not standard." Grant's jaw tightened. "Neither is a full-time worker needing to sell candy after midnight to afford medical care." A pause long enough to hear someone breathe. Then the second partner jumped in. "We also heard you're pushing wage adjustments for the entire building staff. You realize what that does to margins." Grant leaned back in his chair. His eyes flicked to the window, to the street below, the same street where he'd seen Rosa under that street lamp. "I realize exactly what it does," he said. "It tells people we're not blind." "Blind," the partner echoed, almost offended. Grant's voice dropped, calm and deadly honest. "I built a company that can spend thousands on branding campaigns about values, while the people who clean our bathrooms can't afford a child's surgery. If you want to call that efficient, go ahead. I call it broken." The vendor tried again. "We need approvals, contracts." "Rewrite them," Grant said, "or we find someone who will." Silence hit like a slammed door. Then Grant added the line that ended the debate. "This all started because I saw one jar of coconut candy at a red light. And it made me realize something. If we can't take care of the people who keep this place standing, we don't deserve to stand at all." And on the other side of that call, for the first time, nobody had a number big enough to argue with that. By the end of that week, the building didn't just feel cleaner. It felt lighter. It started with small things. Rosa's table became a normal stop between coffee refills and badge swipes. People stopped calling her the cleaner. They called her Rosa. Someone taped a little sign above her setup, Rosa's coconut jars. Ask me about the toasted batch. Another employee brought her a stack of napkins like it was the most natural thing in the world. Then the numbers started moving. Dana Whitmore walked into Grant's office with a printout, her eyebrows lifted like she didn't trust what she was seeing. Our turnover in facilities and night staff, it dropped, she said. Not a little, a lot. Grant took the paper, scanning it in silence. People were staying. People were showing up early. People were covering shifts without being begged. And on Monday morning, a client call came in that Grant expected to be another negotiation battle. Instead, the woman on the line surprised him. Mr. Holloway, she said, before we talk pricing, I need to ask, is it true you raised pay for your building staff and set up a medical hardship program? Grant paused. He could have delivered the polished corporate answer, the one that sounded safe. He didn't. Yes, he said, it's true. On the other end, there was a breath, almost a relief. Good, she replied, because I'm tired of hiring companies that look ethical on paper and treat people like disposable parts. Send the agreement. We're moving forward. Grant stared at his desk after the call ended, the silence buzzing in his ears. He wasn't used to doing the right thing and watching it come back like a boomerang. Outside his glass wall, people were working, laughing, living. The building was still a machine, but now it had a pulse. Later that afternoon, Grant passed the cafeteria and saw Rosa counting bills, tucking them into an envelope with careful, trembling precision. She noticed him and quickly straightened like she'd been caught doing something wrong. Grant shook his head. Don't hide it, he said softly. That's your work. Rosa's throat bobbed. People keep buying, she whispered, almost shocked. They ask about Eli. They remember. Grant nodded once. Because you made it impossible to ignore you. And as he walked away, he realized the most dangerous thing that had happened in his company wasn't a wage increase. It was this. People had started believing they mattered. The good news didn't come wrapped in a bow. It came as a voicemail at 6:12 a.m., buzzing Rosa awake in her tiny kitchen, while the coffee maker gurgled like it was struggling too. Mrs. Delgado, the nurse, said, brisk but kind. We had a cancellation. We can get Eli in sooner. A beat. But you need to confirm today, and the deposit has to be secured within 48 hours. Rosa stood there barefoot on cold tile, phone pressed to her ear, staring at her sleeping son on the couch. His back curled the way it always was now, like his body was trying to protect itself. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Sooner meant less pain. Sooner meant fewer nights of Eli grinding his teeth in his sleep. Sooner meant hope. Sooner also meant panic. She called Grant's office on her break. Not to ask for money. She didn't even mention the deposit. She just said, I need more time in the cafeteria today. Grant didn't ask questions over the phone. He heard the tightness in her voice and said one thing. You've got it. By noon, Rosa's folding table looked like a tiny factory line. Jars, labels, napkins, a handwritten sign that now read, Limited Batch Toasted Coconut. Employees bought 2 at a time, then 4. Someone sent a company-wide email. If you've ever had a mom fight for you, go see Rosa today. Rosa didn't stop moving. She didn't sit. She didn't eat. She counted cash with trembling fingers, tucked it into the envelope, and kept going, because every jar was one step closer to a hospital bed instead of a street lamp. Grant watched from the hallway, feeling the air crackle with urgency. He caught Rosa's eye once. Just once. You okay? He asked quietly. Rosa's smile was thin, brave, almost painful. I will be when he's on that operating table. That night, long after the building emptied, Rosa stayed in her apartment, stirring coconut and sugar until her wrist ached. The pot hissed. The scent filled the room. Eli woke up and shuffled in, rubbing his eyes. Mom, he whispered, voice small. Why are you still up? Rosa wiped her hands on her apron and knelt so he wouldn't see how scared she was. Because we got a chance, she said, and we're not letting it slip. Eli blinked slowly. Is it soon? Rosa nodded, pressing her forehead to his for just a second. Soon enough that you're going to need to be brave. And in the quiet, after he went back to sleep, Rosa turned to the stove again, eyes burning, heart pounding, stirring like time itself was running out. Grant Holloway thought the hardest part was fighting his partners. He was wrong. That night he sat in his dark kitchen phone, glowing in his hand, staring at a photo he hadn't looked at in years. His son Mason, younger, laughing, sticky-faced from ice cream. Grant had been there, but not really there. Always half present. Always one more call. He heard Rosa's voice in his head. If I stop selling, my son stops getting better. And suddenly Grant saw the mirror. Money wasn't the only thing you could be rich in. Time mattered. Presence mattered. The kind of love that shows up when it's inconvenient. The next morning he did something his calendar would have called impossible. He cleared his afternoon. No meetings, no excuses. Then he texted Mason dinner tonight. Just us. I'll pick you up. Mason replied, a full 10 minutes later. You sure? Grant swallowed. Yeah, I'm sure. When Mason climbed into the passenger seat that evening, he didn't smile right away. He looked at his dad like he was waiting for the catch. Grant didn't rush it. He just drove. Hands steady on the wheel. Heart not so steady. At a red light, Mason glanced over. So, what changed? Grant exhaled, eyes on the road. I saw someone fighting for her kid, he said, and it made me realize I've been losing mine. Mason didn't answer. But he didn't look away either. And for the first time in a long time, Grant felt like he was finally showing up where it counted. Sometimes the biggest wake-up call isn't a tragedy. It's a quiet person doing something brave in plain sight. If someone's struggle makes you uncomfortable, don't look away. Let it change you. Because kindness isn't charity. It's respect in action. And time with the people you love. That's the one thing you can't earn back. If this story hit your heart even a little, drop a comment. Who in your life deserves more of your time right now? And don't forget to subscribe, because stories like this remind us what really matters.